It's May 1st, and it's impossible to think of May 1st and not think of Ayrton Senna. Ayrton Senna was without a doubt the most incredible, legendary sportsman this country has ever had. Ever since I started this channel, guys, I knew that eventually I would have to prepare a video about him, because talking about Brazil and not talking about Ayrton Senna is virtually impossible. His short-lived but intense life changed the lives of a whole country in terms of having a role model to follow. This is going to be the hardest video I have ever made for this channel. Get ready for an unforgettable emotional experience after the intro.
He drove on instinct, emotion, and an unparalleled self-belief that he was destined to win.
I refuse to walk away from the fight.
And I'm not designed to come third, fourth, or fifth. I race to win.
Hello BU Nation, how you doing? Ayrton Senna da Silva was one of the greatest Formula One drivers of all time. Starting his career back in 1984, he became world champion in 1988, 1990, and 1991. He made the history, guys, during his time at McLaren, where he teamed up with French four-time world champion Alain Prost and set records that still stand today. However, his career was cut short by a fatal crash at the San Marino Grand Prix in 1994, leaving a whole generation without a Brazilian winner, until Rubens Barrichello's victory at the 2000 German Grand Prix. Still, Senna's name became immortalized. Let's learn more about the journey of Brazil's last three-time Formula One champion. Born in the Santana neighborhood of São Paulo, Ayrton started racing go-karts at the age of 4, and what began as a game turned serious by the time he was 13. At 21, Senna moved to Europe, where he won the Formula Ford 1600 Championship in the United Kingdom in 1981 by winning 12 out of 20 races. 2 years later, guys, he claimed the title in the British Formula 3, which at the time was the final step before entering Formula One. His debut in the top tier of European motorsport came in 1984 with the Toleman team. Senna suffered a mechanical failure during his home debut at the Brazilian Grand Prix in Jacarepaguá, Rio de Janeiro. However, he scored his first point in the very next round at the South African Grand Prix. In a challenging year due to the car's performance, retiring from 8 out of 14 races, Senna's start shone for the first time at the reigning Monaco Grand Prix. Starting from 13th on the grid, he worked his way up in the field in tough conditions, challenging even three-time world champion Nick Lauda and closing in on the race winner Alain Prost to finish in second place. The Brazilian claimed his first Formula One victory at the 1985 Portuguese Grand Prix after switching from Toleman to Lotus. He was coming off a retirement at Jacarepaguá due to an electrical failure and was entitled to use the spare car in case of another issue at Estoril, which did happen, although it didn't spare him from a series of problems. After securing pole position, Senna suffered a Renault engine failure on the Sunday before the race during a warm-up session that was part of the category until 2002. Heavy rain returned to the circuit, but Ayrton still secured the triumph, guys, lapping 19 out of the 20 drivers who remained in the race. Everyone except runner-up Michel Alboreto. His second win came later the same year at the Belgian Grand Prix. In the following season, guys, he won the Spanish and the United States Grand Prix, and in 1987 he achieved 2 consecutive victories in Monaco and the United States. Guys, if you are enjoying this content, please make sure you smash the like button, you leave a comment, you tell me what you think of this content, what you think of Ayrton Senna. If you knew him, if you follow his races, please let me know. Subscribe to the channel and consider becoming a member of the channel. We have 3 categories right here in the join button. Just go check it out, and your support, whatever that is gonna go a long way for us to keep producing content around here, okay? Let's go back to the video. The historic partnership between Senna and McLaren began in 1988. With the British team, the Brazilian delivered one of the most dominant seasons in both the team's history and his own career, guys, finishing the year with 13 pole positions, 11 podiums, and 8 wins in 16 races to secure his first world title. Together, Ayrton and Alain Prost won 15 out of the 16 races in their first season as teammates. But they also kicked off a legendary rivalry that truly escalated after the two exchanged aggressive moves during the Portuguese Grand Prix. Early in 1989, Senna would reportedly break a pre-race agreement by overtaking Prost at Imola. Right in his debut with McLaren, Senna took pole position at Jacarepaguá, his first in Brazil. However, he was disqualified for switching to the spare car after the green flag had been waved following a gearbox failure. Before the penalty, he had started from the back, made a remarkable recovery, and climbed up to the second place. Still, Alain Prost had a clear path to victory, especially after a pit stop dropped Ayrton to 6th place. Senna's first win for McLaren came coincidentally on May 1st at the San Marino Grand Prix, right after the Brazilian round. Ayrton secured pole position with a 0.7 second lead over Alain Prost and an incredible 3-second gap over 3rd place, also Brazilian Nelson Piquet. While the Frenchman lost several positions after a poor start, only regaining 2nd place after 8 laps, the Brazilian led from start to finish. Still in 1988, guys, in Monaco, Ayrton grabbed the pole position with nearly a 1.5 second advantage over Prost and was on his way to building a lead of almost 1 minute over his teammate during the race, until he crashed at the entrance of the tunnel on lap 66. He didn't even return to McLaren garage, he simply walked back to his apartment in Monte Carlo. And Senna was exactly like that. He was very intense in his profession. The Brazilian also lost the chance to fight for victory in Mexico after starting from pole but dropping 3rd place. He returned, guys, to the top of the podium in Canada, overtaking his teammate on lap 19. Senna also won the Detroit Grand Prix, but in France, his undercut strategy wasn't enough to stop Prost from taking the win. At Silverstone, Ayrton bounced back with a victory, moving from 3rd to 1st under heavy rain, and once again triumphed in similar wet conditions in Germany. And he became famous for being very, very skillful whenever it rained as well. Senna came out on top in Hungary, tying with Prost at 66 points in the championship standings. Then, in Belgium, not only did he take the lead in the standings, but McLaren also clinched the Constructors' Championships with 5 races still to go, guys. Unbelievable. The title showdown in Japan was preceded by a double retirement for Senna and Prost at Monza, a 6th place finish for Senna in Estoril, and a 4th place in Spain. And Suzuka began with a drama. Senna's McLaren stalled, dropping him to the back of the grid. At the start, under wet conditions, He overtook 8 cars right away, then 2 more, and then 2 more again, reaching second place by lap 20. The historic title clinching overtake came on lap 28. Despite defensive driving by the Frenchman, Senna became world champion for the first time. The second season with the duo culminated in a championship win for the Frenchman, marked by a collision between him and Senna at the Japanese Grand Prix, which ended with the Brazilian being disqualified. And the year hadn't started well for Ayrton, who finished 11th at the Brazilian Grand Prix. However, he returned to the top of the podium in San Marino the next round, where he made a controversial overtake on Prost at the Villeneuve corner. Ayrton also triumphed in Monaco before running into another streak of bad luck. He suffered mechanical problems in the United States, in Canada, and France, and retired in the UK after starting from pole and spinning out, falling 20 points behind championship leader Prost. He won in Germany and finished second in Hungary, and although he secured a dominant victory in Belgium, he suffered another mechanical failure, this time while leading in Italy due to an engine issue. The unlucky streak continued when the Brazilian was hit at the Portuguese Grand Prix by Nigel Mansell, who had already been disqualified for reversing in the pit lane. The win in Spain, however, helped Senna arrive at the penultimate race of the season in Suzuka, Japan, with a 4-point lead over Prost. Starting from pole, Senna was overtaken at the start by his teammate, with whom he would later collide. The president of the International Federation of Motorsports, FISA, Jean-Marie Balestre, declared Prost the champion despite the Frenchman also retiring from the race. Senna claimed the championship had been manipulated, but he was forced to retract his statement in order to be allowed to compete in the 1990 season. In 1990, Prost moved to Ferrari and Ayrton stayed with McLaren, but the legendary rivalry remained strong in the year of the Brazilian's second world title. He arrived at Suzuka determined to prevent a victory by the Frenchman that would have earned Prost a 4th championship. As a result, they collided once again. This time at the start of the race, both drivers were forced to retire. Senna's final title came in 1991 in a season where he battled against Nigel Mansell's Williams, as Prost's Ferrari saw a confirmed decline in performance. It was also McLaren's 4th consecutive Constructors' Championship. However, the team's intense effort throughout the year to keep upgrading the MP46 car delayed the development of the following season's model, ultimately bringing the team's winning streak to an end. The Brazilian would go on to spend 2 more years with the British team. In 1992, he won only 3 races during a season dominated by Nigel Mansell's Williams. Senna and Mansell would go head-to-head in the final race of the year in Australia, a duel that ended with a crash and retirement for both drivers, costing Ayrton the runner-up spot in the championship. That runner-up finish would only come in 1993, guys, when McLaren switched from Honda engines to Ford. Senna secured 5 victories that season, including the last of his career in Adelaide at the Australian Grand Prix. The technological advancements of the Williams car, designed by the renowned Adrian Newey, now a key figure at the Red Bull Racing, greatly appealed to Senna. The Brazilian signed with Williams and debuted for the team in 1994, but was met with unexpected challenges. The FIA, Fédération Internationale de l'Automobile, had banned electronic aids, including active suspension, and reintroduced refueling during races. The Williams car had serious issues, and despite earning 3 pole positions at the start of the season, Senna failed to score a single point. In the opening race in Brazil, this time at Interlagos, he spun out. In the Pacific Grand Prix in Japan, he crashed. His final race would be the ill-fated San Marino Grand Prix at Imola. That weekend began with a serious accident that left Rubens Barrichello with a dislocated rib and a broken nose, despite the massive 90G impact, the equivalent of the young Brazilian 72-kilo body weight being multiplied 90 times by gravitational force. On Saturday, Austrian driver Roland Hatzerberg tragically died, yet Formula One chose to proceed with the race weekend. The race on May 1st began with a crash involving J.J. Leto and Pedro Lamy. Debris from the impact injured 9 spectators in the grandstands. The race was resumed, and on the 7th lap, Senna went straight into the wall at the Tamburello corner. The impact broke the suspension arm of his Williams, and the part struck him in the forehead, piercing his helmet. The race was halted so Ayrton could receive medical attention. He was treated on the track and then airlifted by helicopter to the Maggiore Hospital in Bologna. In the intensive care unit, the ICU, at the age of 34, Ayrton Senna was pronounced dead at 6:40 p.m. local time, 1:40 p.m. Brasilia time. At the time, it was reported that the driver had suffered instant brain death due to the trauma, which under Italian law would have required the race to be cancelled. The same was believed to have happened with Ratzerberg on Saturday. Nevertheless, the race continued and was won by Michael Schumacher. Then, Formula One boss Bernie Ecclestone denied that the deaths had occurred at the track. The immediate reaction in Brazil was the declaration of 3 days of official mourning. Senna's wake was held on May 4th and 5th at the Legislative Assembly of São Paulo, during which even public offices in the capital were giving optional leave. The triple world champion's coffin was visited by 240,000 people, and the funeral procession to Morumbi Cemetery was followed by 1 million fans. I remember that very well, guys. I was just 13 years old when Ayrton Senna died, and I remember to have seen the deepest sadness in a country I had ever seen. It was unbelievable. In 1997, the Italian justice system indicted Adrian Newey, then Williams' chief designer, along with the team's bosses Frank Williams and Patrick Head, and 3 other individuals. The blame for the driver's death was attributed to the failure of the steering columns in his Williams, caused by a faulty weld. The part had been repositioned at a different angle to prevent Ayrton's hands from hitting the cockpit while steering. However, the accused were acquitted as prosecutors failed to conclusively prove the cause of death. A new trial in 2007 concluded that the accident was caused by a failure in the steering column. That failure resulted from poor design and poor execution. Responsibility for this lies with Patrick Head, guilty of omitted oversight. Head, however, did not serve jail time due to the Statute of Limitations. 13 years had passed since the accident. In his autobiography published in 2017, Adrian Newey admitted he felt a sense of responsibility for Senna's fatal crash. I was one of the senior officials on a team that designed a car in which a great man died. I will always feel a degree of responsibility for Ayrton's death, but not guilt. It doesn't matter whether that steering column caused the crash or not. What's impossible to ignore is that the shaft was a poorly designed part that should never have been allowed on a car. I messed up the transition from active to passive suspension and designed a car that was aerodynamically unstable. Ayrton tried to do things the car simply wasn't capable of. If he suffered a puncture and went faster in an aerodynamically unstable car, it would have made it difficult to control, even for him, the designer confessed. One of the most famous last names in world sports only came to light in 1981 when Ayrton was racing in the United Kingdom. Before that, the driver used his father's last name, Da Silva, but he decided to adopt his mother's maiden name, thus immortalizing Senna in the history of Formula One. I hope you guys have enjoyed this video about the great Ayrton Senna. If you have, make sure you smash the like button, you subscribe to the channel, and I'm going to leave you here 2 cards. This one is about the great Santos Dumont, the creator of the airplane as we know, and this one here is about the creation of the character Zé Carioca by Walt Disney. Thank you very much, and I'll see you again tomorrow. Bye-bye.